Hello, you all. Welcome back to Amos Haven. How are you all doing? So today we are doing a grad school video. We are talking in detail how to email professors, and I have with me two PhD candidates or students to tell us more about how to go about emailing professors and getting funding for your PhD programs and all that. So I have with me here Barry. Barry is going to tell us from his own perspective, and later on we will have Edwin also come in to tell us what he also knows. So without further ado, let's just get right into this video. So Barry, tell us. Let's just talk, like, get straight into the video. Tell us, how many schools did you apply for your PhD program?
Actually, I applied for like 8 universities. Yeah, 8 universities.
Wow, 8 universities. And with all these, you were looking for funding.
Yeah.
What kind of funding were you looking for?
Actually, I just look for the stipend because I don't want to tell my parents like, oh, you need to pay my tuition fees. So I really need stipends. And so the first thing when I email professors, I ask like whether I can receive stipends. Yeah, this is the most important thing to me.
Okay, awesome. So now let's talk about funding. How do you see funding for PhD programs?
Okay, first, actually, you can just go over their website, the official website, and to see whether you can receive your funding, your stipend. And if you if you don't see any information about funding and stipend, you can just email professor and ask this question. This one is super important, and I believe professors are willing to answer this question. Like, you need to you can receive the stipend from the department, so you need to work as a teaching assistant, or you receive the funding from the professor, so you need to work as a research assistant, and you can just ask this question. Yeah.
You can just ask that question.
Yeah.
All right. So you were telling me that funding comes in two ways. Either you're a teaching assistant or you are a GRA. So let's talk more about that.
Yeah, first, yeah, like what I said, if you receive money from the department, you need to work as a teaching assistant. You need to teach. You need to teach some like undergraduate student. And if you receive funding from the professor, you need to work on the project. You need to be a research assistant. And sometimes you can receive scholarship. And if you are lucky enough to receive scholarship, you don't need to do anything. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So now let's get into getting a GRA position. How do we email professors? How do we find our way trying to get into the hearts of professors? Get in
Okay.
the position.
Okay. First, when you email professors, you need to introduce yourself first. Like, and you need to prepare your CV for professors to know you better. And you need to ask, like, what's your next project? This question is very important. If sometimes the professors might change their focus. For example, I'm studying memory, and if this professor is studying memory now, but for his next project, he will be focusing on like attention or something. So you need to ask this question first, like, what's your next project? And if you love that project and you are willing to work on that project, then you can ask whether you can provide funding for students, and I can work as your research assistant. Yeah, and you can ask this question and to get the position.
Okay. Okay. So now let's I think you've mentioned like ask the professor what is your next project.
Yeah.
What else do we need in the email when you are sending professors like email concerning like you being interested in their project and all that? Because I feel like from the very beginning you might not know that this is what their focus is. So the very initial stage, what steps or what things do you need talk about before we get into asking the focus of the professor's research and then getting to know whether you are interested or not?
Okay. First, I think the first thing is to look over the personal website of the professor. So you can see anything like research interest and lab members and some other information like whether they will be taking new PhD student. And after looking over their website, you just email the professor like what's your next project. First introduce yourself with your CV, and the second one to ask what the next project is and whether you are willing to work as a research assistant. And next you ask like, do you have funding, or maybe I will be funded by the department, and if I'm funded by the department, I would like to be a teaching assistant there. And also, the last one, I think, is to talk about your research interest and whether your research interest match the lab, match the professor. But I think there's one most important thing is you need to know more about the professor, so you can contact the lab members like grad students, research assistant in that lab to know more about this person, to know the mentorship style of the professor. And this point is also very important because once you are admitted, you need to work with the professor for 5 years or more. So you need to know this person really well and know the mentorship style. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much. I feel this is like very detailed coming from your own perspective.
Yeah.
What's the last thing that you would say concerning emailing professors and supervisors?
The last thing is okay. I think it's very beneficial to talk with current PhD student and research assistant in the lab to know more about the professor. I think this point is very important because you need to work with this person for 5 years.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Barry.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll switch to Edward.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about that.
So, I have a video with Edwin, and then he spoke about how he transitioned from MSc in the same school, straight to PhD. So, how did you do it?
So I think it's mostly from your master's. Like, how does your master's go? And for me, my advisor wanted me to stay, and that's how come I was able to stay. So, and I could have gone to a different university, but I finished, fortunately or unfortunately, I finished my master's in the prime season of COVID. And so most of the professors I'd reached out to were not taking in new students because they didn't know where their lab was going to go. No one was certain. And for my advisor also, if I'd left, she wouldn't have any students at all. So she definitely wanted me to stay. So I stayed with my advisor, and I mean, the transition was just smooth because I knew the lab, I knew my advisor, the applications, the MSU graduate office knew me, so it was just like really smooth, like a smooth transition from master's to PhD. Yeah, and the benefit of staying in Montana State University is I could transfer credits. So instead of using like 4 years for a PhD, because you'd probably do 2 years of coursework, I'm gonna do 3 years for a PhD. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much for the brief introduction. So now I know people do contact you concerning how to get into professors' heads, how to, get that funding from supervisors. What do you think are like the most important things to hit on when you are emailing professors?
So I think that it's not possible to get into their heads because professors are always thinking about papers or their research. but like how can you stand out? Because like several students email professors every day, so how do you stand out? um the first thing I'll tell you is like do your research about every professor, like any and every professor you're going to send an email to, their background, what they did in their, like, if you can, what they did in their PhD research, what their lab is focusing on, what their interests are. Do your research on that, and if your interests align with them, then you can now confirm that, hey, this is someone I want to work with, this is someone I want to send an email. I know as much as people want to get into grad school and want to get higher education, you should only email professors that you're interested in their research. If you're not interested, don't email them. No matter the situation, because if for a master's you can explore, but for a PhD you need to be interested in it, because it gets very frustrating sometimes, and you want to give up, you want to tap out. That's when like your interest in that research will power through. So you should only email professors that you have an interest in their research. So you read about like their research focus, and in your email, the first few lines should be an introduction about who you are, and then just if like first two lines who you are, then the next maybe 3 to 5 lines should be about what you've seen they are doing, and why, and how, like why you're interested in it and how you can contribute. It's not just I am interested in your research and I want to work with you, but what do you think you can bring to the table? What do you think, how do you think you can make their lab better, their research better? How can you contribute? And so from moving from talking about their interest, saying you are interested, and then how you can contribute, then you start to talk a bit about your experience. Now, mind you, do not write like a 2-page essay for professors, because they don't have time to read that. They have papers to read. They are reading the other grad students' manuscripts. They are busy. So keep it short and precise, very short. I would say at most 10 lines. At most 10 lines. And if you can, it's your attachments that would matter. So your 10 lines should make the professor curious about you, and then look at your attachments. Your attachments will be your resume, GRE scores if you have any, and maybe language test scores. And for your resume, if you've published any papers, if you've been involved in any research, that it should, like those things should speak for you. Especially if you've published papers, that's amazing. Like they'll pay more attention to you, and you should talk about that even in your email. That I did this research. When you're talking about your experience, I did this research, and we are able to publish a paper, or been able to publish 2 papers. Like you should highlight that, and so they go to your resume and they see those papers, they can check it out. And if those papers align with their interest or their research focus, great. Then they want you, because especially for non-tenured professors, they want to publish papers. For tenured professors, they might, outside of papers, they might be looking for more diversity in their lab, and the opportunity to train someone from, let's say, a less from a place that's not so common in the US or whatever country you are applying to. But for non-tenured, they want papers, and so when you start talking about research and papers, you have their interest. Another thing I should add is persistence, because you don't send one email and you're done, and they'll get back to me. No, they are busy. And it depending on when you send the email. If you send the email in the summer, in the US, summer is when almost everyone takes a break. People go on vacation, people are into like grad offices closed, things like that, things of that nature. So you should be persistent. Send one email. If you don't get a response in 2 weeks, send another email. Some of us who were very persistent, we installed email trackers on our Gmail, so that we can track when you open our emails, like that sort of thing, because you have to be persistent, not because you are desperate, but professors are, like I said, they're thinking about their research, they're thinking about the other grad students. They have to, like, being a faculty in the US especially is a lot of work. So to stand out, you have to be persistent. Send 1 or 2 emails so they know you really want this. Yeah.
All right. I think you said a whole lot that is like amazing. I myself I'm learning because who knows, I probably would apply for a PhD program. I don't know yet, but thank you very much. What's like the last thing that you would say? Maybe some trick or some, something that you want to hammer on again for other students that are thinking of applying to PhD programs and getting those, GRE positions and all that.
There was one time and in everyone's field, so my field is food science and food processing. In everyone's field, there are like should I say celebrity professors, and when I say celebrity, not like they don't do the work and they're just famous, but they do the work and everyone respects them, in academia it's different. The celebrity professor like really knows his stuff or her stuff. And one time I sent an email to a celebrity professor, and I thought it would take like maybe a month or even a year before he go back to me. But he replied instantly. And for that email, I saved it because I tried a different approach. Instead of being like, my name is Edwin Allen, and I'm interested in your research on this, I was like, so I read about him, and he came from, I think he came from a South American or a Central American country, but it's a developing country. And so I used that route. I was like, hey, my name is Edwin and I'm from Ghana in West Africa. And like you, I come from a developing country, and I've seen issues of undernutrition and food insecurity. And I'm passionate about ending it in my country. And I know you are passionate about ending undernutrition and food insecurity in your country. And that's why you've done this kind of research. That is why you do extension in South American and Central American countries, because you want to fight against this, and I want to join your fight. And this is what I'm bringing to the table. I have done this, I have done that, I have done this, and I think I'll be a great addition to your lab. He responded. So like, using his background as like someone also from a developing country, someone who is mostly passionate about undernutrition and food insecurity, he responded immediately because it resonated. Everyone is passionate about something. So if you can find that professor's passion and attack it, you're in good business.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you have learned a lot from Barry and then Edwin, as they talk about how, you corrected me, not to get into professors' heads, but how to at least get attention from them. Thank you guys very much for watching through to the end. I'll be back on your screens again with another video. And for now, if you are not subscribed, please do hit the subscribe button.
Subscribe.
Hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime that I post a new video. And until next time, it's bye for now. Barry, come in.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.